And now, please welcome Gary Graham, Board Chair, McMaster Innovation Park, as we learn more about this exciting component of Hamilton's new economy.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you in this beautiful room about a very interesting community project. I speak, of course, of the McMaster Innovation Park, the senior staff of which, and I would mention Zach, Douglas, and Ruth and Mark, who are here. Maybe you can raise your hands, who've done a great job over the past 5 or 10 years. I think there's something like, Zach, I know I never get this number right, but I think there's something like 530 jobs on that site, and maybe half of those are new jobs to the community. I talked on the video there about putting money into the ground, and the first money put into that ground was money put in by the company that George Westinghouse founded. And George Westinghouse had a small group of engineers when he was getting started back in the late 1800s, and one of them was a guy named Nikola Tesla. Now today that Tesla name is being used by an entrepreneur named Elon Musk, who is designing and producing absolutely beautiful electric vehicles. And isn't it interesting that on these former Westinghouse lands, some of the best research in the world in electric and hybrid vehicles is being done. So the legacy of Westinghouse and Tesla lives on. I thought I would mention the George Westinghouse story for a couple of reasons. First, I wanted to show some respect to the former mayor of Pittsburgh. Westinghouse was a great company in Pittsburgh. It was headquartered there. The companies that emerged out of Westinghouse continue to create jobs and wealth in the Pittsburgh area. Secondly, because that beautiful building that was featured in the video was built with capital created by the innovation of Mr. Westinghouse. And third, you already know the Steve Jobs story, the Apple story. It's been well covered in the media. If you want to find something out about George, you've got to go and dig a little deeper. I'll just give you a few points about him. His age was a mechanical age. We're talking about the 1880s to 1910. The digital world hadn't been invented and didn't exist yet. He was fascinated with how things worked in this mechanical age. And one thing he figured out how to do was to stop trains with pillows of air. He used air to stop freight trains and created air brakes. He had so many inventions. Another one, he figured out how to transmit electricity over long distances using alternating current, which incidentally, I was thinking as I was listening to Rob and Kevin, requires transformers as you change the voltage while you move it along the system. And there was a engineering marketing person named Archie McIsaac, who of course is Rob's father, who helped bring Westinghouse's transformer products to utilities across the country. Mr. Westinghouse put large teams of people to work as he perfected his products and developed them and commercialized them. And he found his way to lawyers and accountants, and in the course of doing that, he created wealth, but he stumbled along the way. And many great entrepreneurs will stumble. And I've spoken to some great entrepreneurs, some of whom one of whom has recently donated a huge sum of money to a famous university. And they can go bankrupt along the way, but they can pick themselves up and get back to executing on their mission or their vision. There have been a lot of innovators over the last 25 years. You can just think of them as I mention that. Think of what that guy Bezos is doing with Amazon. He's creating huge wealth. The people who came up with the antenna technology at RIM, the list goes on and on. What I just wanted to do in the few brief minutes I'll take this afternoon is help you understand a little bit better the cycle that an entrepreneur will go through from the conception to the execution of the idea. And maybe if the community can understand that a little bit better, it'll be a little bit easier for the people that have those great ideas to have the wherewithal and to put the teams together and the support together that they need to be successful and to create wealth. And this morning, as I was thinking about how I would explain that to you, I thought of comparing it to the life cycle of a butterfly. So in the beginning, there's the egg, and I think of that as the basic concept or idea that the scientist or the research person or the entrepreneur has. And at this stage, I'm told that if you look closely at the egg of the butterfly, you can actually see it growing in there. And it's at this stage, and think of some of the great concepts or seeds. 100 years ago, you had Henry Ford conceiving of mass production. 30 years ago, you had Bill Gates conceiving of a computer in every office and in every home. 10 or 15 years ago, there was that Napster kid who figured out how to share files and how we can all move music around. There are lots of ideas out there. So in this beginning stage, of course, the entrepreneur needs seed capital. That seed capital doesn't always have to be cash. It could be a few hours off from the research chores that he's got in the labs to pursue his own ideas. It could just be time, spare time that the researcher has after work. The seed capital could also take the form of loans from friends and family. And that's when the concept gets tested by people other than the entrepreneur or the person with the idea. And his will to pursue it comes up against the healthy skepticism of those that he's close to. You then go on to the next stage. You can think of it as the caterpillar stage. And caterpillars, they don't do very much. They basically just eat. And so it's at this stage when the entrepreneur is consuming resources, and he needs angel capital at this point. He's going to soak that up. He'll go on. If he gets the angel capital, and if he decides to move on to the next stage, or she decides to move on to the next stage, we'll see the chrysalis stage, which you can think of as a time when the ideas are really forming, and maybe the entrepreneur is testing for the first time with a customer, somebody who's actually going to pay money for whatever this may be. And maybe that'll work out and the idea will be proven, or maybe not. And then in the final stage, the adult stage, move on, get going, venture capital is necessary. So if you have people that you're close to or that you know who may have these ideas, I'd encourage you to work with them and support them. We need more entrepreneurs. We need them to be successful. We have to participate. It's not someone else's job to do, and we have to support them. I'll just leave you with that. I can read STOP, and I probably stand between you and your break, but thank you for your attention.